Can you guess what I'm about to prepare, guys? How are you all doing? So today I decided to prepare vegetable soup today. This is the water leaf that I will be using to prepare. Why this is the ugu leaf that I will be using to prepare the vegetable soup, because I will be mixing both of them together. Honestly, when I saw this in the shop, I was so happy. I was like, wow, this is water leaf. So I've been looking for how to get water leaf. Immediately I saw it, I was so happy. I was so happy that I got water leaves. So I decided to make ugu and water leaf soup. That is vegetable soup today. So this is when I was just picking the water leaf one after the other, because I did not want the dirty one to be there. Some of them that are not really okay. So I was trying to pick it one after the other so that there will be not dirty one there. So after that, I have to take the remaining one that is not that good straight to the bin. So after that, this is when I was just washing it up. I added some salt because of sounds. I was trying to wash it up. I have to put on my tap and pour it in the sink straight and block the sink. So I added enough water so that it will wash properly. I washed it about 3 times. Yeah, this when I was just trying to bring the first batch. I wash up the first batch. This when I was just washing it up. I was trying to pick up anyone that is inside. I don't want it to mix. So I was trying to pick up the leaf because it was not easy for me to find this water leaf. So I don't want it to miss. So after that, I have to take the remaining one and clean up the sink because of sand. I cleaned up properly and also put on the tap and block the sink immediately so that the water will not be wasting. So by then I have to pour in the water leaf. I started by washing it up again. I have to make sure that I wash it properly. I added enough water in the sink. So immediately I finish washing it, I have to put it back inside the sieve and remove the remaining water in that place. So I was like, okay, let me just set it aside. I went ahead by plugging the ugu leaf. So this when I was just plugging it. The ugu is very fresh. I couldn't believe that I can see something like this that is very fresh like this. So this when I was just plugging the ugu one after the other. So immediately I finished plugging, I have to put it back to that sink, the same sink. I also added some water and salt and wash it up properly, because this ugu always have sand. Sometimes it always have sand. If you didn't wash it up like this, it will, while you are eating the soup, you will be eating sand. So I was like, okay, let me just wash it up, because I don't want sand inside the soup. So this, after washing it up, I have to start by picking it one after the other. I was trying to select it properly so that if I want to cut it, it will be easy for me to cut. So this is when I was just selecting it. Immediately I finished selecting it, I have to press it properly so that the water will go out from the leaves. So immediately I finish that, I have to clean up the sink immediately so that everywhere will be clean if I want to start by cutting it. So first of all, I started from water leaf. I started by cutting off the water leaf first. I was trying to cut this water leaf tiny, but my knife is not that sharp. I was like, okay, let me just cut. I always like it to be very tiny, but the knife is not really giving, honestly. So I was like, okay, let me just cut it up that way. So this when I was just cutting off the water leaf. So immediately I finished cutting off the water leaf, I have to set it aside. I proceeded by cutting ugu leaf. This when I was just cutting the ugu leaf. I have to make sure that I was trying my best to make it to be that tiny, to cut it to be that tiny. This when I was just cutting it. So immediately I finished cutting it, I put it inside the bowl. I have to arrange another one again and cut off and pour it inside the bowl. So when I finish cutting it, I have to set it aside. I was like, okay, let me just wash up the chopping board and also the tray at once, and also the sieve. So immediately I finish washing them up, I have to dry it and put it where they're supposed to be. So I was like, okay, let me just get another napkin and dry up the sink immediately. So this when I was just drying up the sink, I was like, okay, let me just get some meat. This is the goat meat that I'll be using to prepare it. So immediately I brought out the goat meat. I was like, I don't think that this goat meat will be enough. Okay, I said, okay, let me just wash. We'll go ahead and wash. Let me just wash this one. I went ahead. I started by washing up the goat meat. I added some sauce while washing the goat meat. So immediately I finished washing the goat, I brought out my stock fish. This is the stock fish that I'll be using to prepare the vegetable soup. So when I noticed that the meat is not that enough, I went ahead to get another meat. I have to started by washing up this is the cow skin that I'll be using. I'll add on it. So this is when I was just washing up this cow skin. I made sure that I wash it up properly. So immediately I finished washing it, I added some. I brought out my onions. I have to wash in the onions. I added some onions, blended chill pepper and seasoning powder. Although that seasoning powder is, I don't think I will be able to add another seasoning powder while cooking the soup because I've already added everything at once. So this is when I have to pour it in. I put it on the fire. So I went ahead to check if I need to add water. So I added some water in the mixer. It will cook very well. So I waited for it for a few minutes. So I was like, okay, the oil that I will be using to prepare the soup, let me just check if the oil will be enough. So I noticed that the oil is blocked. I have to put it on top of on top of the pot so it will dissolve. So this is the time to add the oil inside the soup. So I waited for the meat to steam very well because I don't really want enough juice in my soup while cooking the water leaf because the water leaf always have its own water. So I decided to allow the water to calm down very well before I add the water leaf. So this is the time I have already added the water leaf and I have to stir it properly. So immediately that I added some crayfish. This is when I was just pouring in and also dry fish in there. So I have to stir it and check if there is some salt and other seasoning. So the taste is okay, so I have to cover it. So it is time for me to add the ugu leaf. So this is when I was just adding the ugu leaf. Immediately that I have to stir it. I was trying to stir it, mix it up together so that it will join up together. So after that I have to also test it to know how it is, guys. So by then I was like, our soup is now ready now, guys. Although I covered it for a few minutes, I came back to check if the food is now ready. So the soup is now ready. So this one I was just trying to dish up the soup that we are going to use this night. So immediately I finished dishing it out, I'll have to set it aside. I was like, okay, let me just go ahead and start by dishing this soup in a plastic bowl so that I will put it in the fridge. Anytime we want to eat it, it will be fresh for us to use. So this when I was just dishing up one after the other. I did not really know that the soup will come up this way, guys. So I was like, okay, let me just dish it out. This when I was just dishing it out one after. So immediately I finished dishing it out, I was like, let me just go ahead and start by washing up the pot immediately. Thank you guys for watching. Can you subscribe and also follow? See you in my next video.